There are 7 things that you should be doing with your brand new DJI Avata 2 as soon as you get it. Now these things are going to make your flying safer, more enjoyable, and also allow you to capture the best possible footage that you can. So get everything turned on and let's get the most out of your brand new DJI Avata 2. The very first thing you should do when you buy your new DJI Avata 2 is you should pick up DJI's Care Refresh. This is basically DJI's own insurance policy, so if you have an accident with the drone or it flies away, you can get a replacement drone or get your drone repaired for just a small excess fee. It's good peace of mind to have, especially with an FPV drone where crashing is just par for the course. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make turtle mode easily accessible when using the FPV3 controller. Now from factory, if you press C1 button once, it sets off the ESC beeper, which when you've had a crash and the drone might be in a bush somewhere, the beeping is going to help you find the drone more easily. But then if you double press the button, it does exactly the same thing. And to me, that doesn't really make any sense. But if you just go into the menu systems, you can change this so a double press activates turtle mode. So to do this, you just go into the settings, then you go into control, click on remote controller, and then scroll down till you see C1 double press. Then you can change this to turtle mode, and then if you've had an accident and the drone is upside down, you just double press the C1 button, the drone will flip itself back over, and you can carry on flying. The next thing that I recommend you do is that you set your return to home altitude to as high as you possibly can within the legal limits of wherever you're flying in. What this is going to do is if you lose signal on the drone and it's trying to make its way back home, it's going to climb way higher and it's going to give you a better chance of recovering the signal sooner, and then if anything is going wrong on the return to home process, you can take over and just fly the drone back manually. Now to adjust this, you just go into the settings, then you go into safety, and then you just change the return to home altitude. In my opinion, 30 meters is way too low for return to home altitude out the box. Set it as high as you can and you'll be fine. Next up, I recommend that you enable real view picture in picture. And what this means is when you're using pass through on the goggles by a double tap, you're also going to be able to see everything around you, but also in the top left of the screen is going to be a display showing what the drone is currently seeing. So this means you can keep an eye on the drone whilst also keeping an eye on what's going on around you. Now to do this, you just go into the settings, go into display, scroll down till you see enable real view PIP, and then turn it on. And then when you go into the pass through in the future, you're going to see both screens of what you can see and the drone can see. It's going to make things a bit easier for you to just keep an eye and monitor both situations. Next up, we're going to want to change our on signal lost action to something that's appropriate for the area that we're flying in. Now, generally, if you're flying outdoors in a big open space, return to home is going to be absolutely fine. But if you're flying in somewhere like the woods or the forest, or if you're flying indoors, you're going to want to set this to a different action, generally either hover or land. Now, if you're flying in the woods, hover is probably going to be a better option because you don't know if the ground below is going to be safe to land, whereas if you're flying indoors, setting it to land is probably going to be perfectly safe in this situation. So to change this, you just go into the settings menu, go on to safety, and then scroll all the way down to advanced safety settings, and then here we can choose our on signal lost action and set it to something appropriate to where it is that we're flying. Now, whilst we're in here, we should also make sure that our propeller stop is turned off if we're using the FPV3 controller and flying in manual mode. This is because there are some instances, I mean, it's very kind of unlikely, but there are some instances that you could put these sticks in the correct orientation to shut off the propellers. And whilst you're flying in manual mode, it's not really something that you want to happen. So if you just make sure that this is turned off, I'm pretty sure it's turned off by default, but just make sure it's turned off if you're flying in manual mode on the FPV3 controller. Right, so next up I'm going to give you the best camera settings to use if you're shooting in automatic camera settings without ND filters. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we actually want to make sure that our white balance is set to a locked value. Now to do this, we just click on the white balance and select one of the numbers above. That's going to lock the white balance. And I recommend that you set this to something like 5,500 Kelvin if you're shooting in the middle of the day. That's roughly the same color temperature as the midday sun, so something around there is going to give you a pretty good image. You will have to adjust the white balance to a cooler or a warmer temperature depending on your environment if it's vastly different, but you can also just edit this in post-production if required. Then you want to make sure that if you're filming content that's going to be used for horizontal format like YouTube or TV, make sure you're filming in 16:9. But if you want to film things that you want to crop for Instagram or TikTok or vertical content, change this to 4:3. This aspect ratio is going to give you more picture information at the top and the bottom of your picture, meaning you're going to have more real estate when cropping for a vertical image. Next, I recommend that you shoot in 4K at 60 frames a second for the best mix of a really good image, but also a nicely flyable image coming through the goggles. Then I recommend that you set your field of view to ultra wide. An ultra wide field of view always makes FPV footage look more dynamic and more intense, so ultra wide is the way to go. And with ultra wide, you are going to have to use Rocksteady 3.0, but Rocksteady 3.0 is a massive leap forward from Rocksteady in the past. For me, Rocksteady 3.0 is doing a more than good enough job, and it's saving me so much time in post-production having to stabilize all of my footage. You should then set your max ISO value to a limit of 200, which is going to help to reduce your ISO going too high and introducing unwanted noise and grain into your footage. Then you want to be shooting in the D-Log-M color profile. This is the flattest color profile available to us, and it's going to give us a way more information-rich image coming into the camera. What this means is it records more details in the highlights and the shadows, allowing you to play with the image more in post-production to get the image to look exactly how you want it to. And if you want a really quick way to take your D-Log-M footage into normal color space footage, Rec 709, there is a conversion LUT available that you can download completely for free from DJI, and then you can just drag and drop that onto your footage, taking your D-Log-M to full color video. And the last thing that you need to do is you need to go and check out this video right here, where I tell you the absolute best rates to use on the DJI FPV3 controller when using manual mode to get the most control, the best precision, and the most cinematic footage you can out of the DJI Avata 2. And if you want to know more about my thoughts and opinions on the Avata 2, check out this video right here, which is my full unfiltered review. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.